Hi there, we're back on the 67 Heel Heel channel on YouTube with Hamish. I believe this is a first. It's not often that you get to see you've got an Olympian on the channel with you, but that's exactly what I'm saying today. Chris Bennett, welcome to 67 Heel Heel. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. It's also the first time you might have had a Union Jack on the channel, and also apologies. I'll just apologise for that to start off with.
I'll let you away with it because I believe it's from your Olympic event, or you're competing at the
Yeah,
Olympics in 2012.
it's my vest from the Olympics. So some people say it looks like a bed sheet. It's that big, but no, it's my vest. So it's pride of place there. I've got my commies one in the hall as well. So two little mementos of kind of stuff that I've done throughout my career.
Yeah, definitely. We'll have a wee chat about yourself and then we'll come on to Celtic, which, to be honest, I'd rather avoid at the moment, but it's kind of something we have to do on a Celtic YouTube channel. The kind of obvious question I've got for you, and it's probably one you've been asked a million times before, but how does one person end up being a hammer thrower?
So I played a lot of football when I was younger. I was the typical kind of fat kid in school. I was rounder than I was taller. But I had a really, really pushy mother. So I started off in football and I played in goals because no one else wanted to do it. But because as I progressed through school and when I got to P7, I went to actually go play rugby. So I started playing rugby for 3, 4 years, and one of my mates down at rugby did athletics, sorry, and he was like, "How do you fancy coming down?" And I was like, "I'll get a bash, kind of bad because rugby stops, football stops over summer, athletics a summer sport." So I decided I was going to do that, and I remember going down on the first night, and I was running laps around the track, and I absolutely hated it because I couldn't run the length of myself. So I told my mum I wasn't going back. I had a really pushy mum, typical kind of Glasgow mum that just wanted me out of the house and not sit and playing video games, and kind of landed on my feet. And that was 18 years ago now, and I find myself as it's my full time job now. So it's not a bad life.
At what point did you realise you were good?
When I went to 2014 Commonwealth Games, I always thought I was better than I was when I and kind of thought I was a typical know-it-all. But then when I look back now, I think kind of going to Glasgow 2014 was a kind of big turning point and saying, all right, you're just not in this as a hobby, and you can actually do something in this. And then I finished dead last in Glasgow, and amongst other things, a whole load of stuff went wrong. But I kind of realised after that I could do more in the sport, and it actually spurred me on to go to the Olympics and then push on to 2 Commonwealth Games and then hopefully go to Tokyo next year. So yeah, so Glasgow was kind of the big springboard and the catalyst. I think I always had aspirations to go there, and I remember I was working in Greaves at the time when it got announced, and I thought, oh, that'd be great to go to it, and I never thought at that moment in time I'd go to 2 Commonwealth Games, a world champs, even an Olympics. Like the Olympics was kind of the pinnacle of it, and not many people go to one Olympics. So I'm fortunate enough to be in a position to hopefully go to two. So yeah, at the start of lockdown, I was in an unfortunate position. But many people in worse positions than me. But like I'm very fortunate where I was kind of paid to go into schools and deliver sessions, and I wasn't getting paid because the company didn't have the money because of the pandemic. So I had to take a full time job. So I actually started working for Tesco, delivering their shopping.
Brilliant.
Well, when the Olympics was cancelled, I was kind of not cancelled, postponed. Sorry, I was kind of over the moon about that because it gave me time, 6 months, to kind of get my feet back on the ground and get back into it again, and almost take the time away from the sport to let my body recover and just mentally refresh as well. So yeah, I worked full time for Tesco up until June, and then decided I was getting back into training. But I was way overweight. I was 24 stone at the time. I was 154 kilos, which is the heaviest I've ever been. So I kind of decided that I needed to shift some weight. So I dropped between June and end of September. I dropped 22 kilos just by changing my diet, and I cut milk at my diet. I used to drink 3 litres of milk a day, blue milk a day. Wouldn't drink water. So cut that out of my diet, kind of changed my exercise times, started running a bit more, which was really hard at the start because like 154 kilos, I could still move, I could still train, I was still really strong, but I wasn't as mobile as I should be, and I wasn't as fast, so it was hard at the start. So it worked though. So I didn't plan on competing till next year. So I decided to do British Champs because I was in good shape, and it was crap because I was in much better shape than I was. I should have went out there and won it, but just lack of competition prep and lack of actually playing or training, sorry, in a circle. It's like I liken it to, it's like you go from playing 5-a-sides on a concrete pitch to going playing 11-a-sides on a grass pitch. Are completely different. And I was training off a field in the middle of nowhere with a strip of concrete next to Edinburgh Airport. So yeah, it was very different. But it's going well now, so I've started training well. I'm back 11 weeks now. I train twice a day, most days. I've got Thursday and a Sunday off, so I'm in good shape, and I'm mentally in a good place as well. Like, I'm in a groove. I keep myself moving, and I've got a rhythm in training, and I like it. So yeah, everything's going well for me at the minute. I think I went to Glasgow with the wrong intentions. I went to Glasgow. I'd lost my dad and my coach in the 2 years previous to that, so I'd went with the wrong reasons, and I went in, and in my head I'd won the competition before I'd even stepped out, and then I finished dead last, and I was like, well, what have I done here? So I remember leaving Hampden in floods of tears, and I was like, you know what, I'm never going to feel like this again. And I was going to, like, I'm going to better myself. So I went to qualify for the World Champs in Beijing the next year, and British Athletics didn't take me because they didn't think I was good enough. And I was like, do you know what, this is going to be a big, like, stick it to the man. I'm gonna prove you wrong, and I'm gonna go to European Champs next year. Now, bear in mind, this is Olympic year, so I said I'm going to go to European Champs. I'm going to do what I can to do that, and if I get to the Olympics, that's fine. So they spent the whole year telling me I wasn't going to the Olympics. I wasn't going to get selected if I didn't make the standard, and I didn't do everything. And I came out and I smashed it out of the park. I did everything that they wanted me to do, and they were still telling me, "No, you're not going to the Olympics." So I'm like, well, fair enough. Do you know what? I'm going to go to European Champs and do well. And then I got a phone call 3 weeks beforehand and said, I'm going to the Olympics. And I'm like, oh shit, I need to change my plans. Like, I've literally, wow. I'm going to miss the qualifiers here. Like, it was quite funny. Like, I just got my season ticket back because I'd struggled for cash. I hadn't had a season ticket for a couple of years, and it was just coming to the end of Ronnie Dyler's era. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to get a season ticket because we're going to get Davy Moyes in and it'll be great. And I thought, like, we got Brendan Rodgers in, and I'm like, oh my god, it's amazing. So I remember the first time I was sitting at a game, and it was quite funny. It was one of the qualifiers, and the boy said, "Oh, he's coming to the next round." And I was like, "Nah, I can't, mate. I'm going to the Olympics." And they're like, "What?" And I'm like, "Nah, I'm actually going to the Olympics." "Oh, like, are you going out there to work?" I was like, "No, I'm going to compete." And they're like, "Aye, no bother." So like, this was like, I buggered off for like 3 weeks, and I come back, and the boys were like, "Oh, you really are a hammer thrower, aren't you?" And I was like, "Yes, I am." Like, I was at the Olympics. That was quite cool. So yeah, Olympics, I hadn't really had any expectations of going there, so I was just going there to make up the numbers, like, in my eyes, and it wasn't real. So that I hadn't planned and prepared for that, and it was quite a hard one to do. But then I thought, you know what, I'll come out the back of it, and I'll go to London World Champs the next year, and I'll do well. And I got injured off the back of that. I was struggling with my back. I had 6 injections in my back that year trying to stay healthy, and it got to the stage where on a day-to-day basis, I was throwing and someone had to go pick up my hammers because I couldn't walk because my back was that bad. So yeah, it was quite a tricky scenario, and I was fighting to keep myself fit. And then I got myself into really good shape going to Gold Coast, and I was absolutely flying when I got out there. And yeah, I immediately thought, I got into the stadium, and I thought, right, I can't do what I did in Glasgow. And what's the first thing you say if you can't do something? You automatically do it. So if I told you not to think about a pink elephant, you think about a pink elephant, and that's the subconscious of it. And I remember, like, I had a massive mental breakdown when I came back from it. Like, I struggled really bad with it. I wondered if sport was for me anymore, and I wondered if my life was what I wanted it to be anymore. And I had some stupid thoughts, I'm not going to lie to you. So yeah, I really struggled with that, and then that's when I had the help of a psychologist, a clinical psychologist, who I'd seen previously in 2012 and 2013 when my dad and my coach had died. So I had that pre-existing relationship, and for me it's been great, because a lot of my problems aren't to do with sport, they're more to do with me and my personal life. And I think a lot of athletes are like that as well. I think if they've got that balance of everything outside of the sport is going well, the sport will generally take care of itself if you're in a group. Whereas if there's not that balance, that's when you start to see the upsets and things happening. So like, my attitude's changed over the past kind of like 4 or 5 years. I'm not just there to make up the numbers. I'm not just happy to be there. I've actually got like a little bit of spite back in me, which I've never had before. Like, I've got that little bit of spite, and it's almost like a big, you know what, stuff you, I'm going to prove you wrong, and it kills me.
The Celtic board.
Oh mate, it kills me at the minute watching the football. It's just like you see it, man. They just don't want it. It looks like to me as if they don't want to be there.
Yeah.
Like, I was going to come on and be like, right, come on, Neil Lennon deserves the job, and I was like, I can't even say that, but I can't even joke about it now. But yeah, so yeah, that's kind of what I need to do in sport, and like it's almost like a redemption is what I want. You know what I mean? I've done all these things, and it's great to sit back and look at it. But in 10, 15 years' time, what are going to people remember me as? Are they going to remember someone that went to Olympics, or are they going to someone who went to Olympics and got a medal or made finals and went to Commie Games and won it, and that's for me. The dream scenario was, win Commie Games at Hampden in front of your home stadium, and then that's it, retire, 24 years old, I've completed it, getting to walk out at Celtic Park and ended up finishing last and getting pissed for a week. Like, that's my memories from Glasgow, is just staying drunk for the week after it. So I'd much rather the medal, if I'm honest.
Yeah, definitely. You've got time to turn it round though, so there's plenty of stuff, and you've still been to an Olympics, which is what 99.9% of the planet will never be able to say. So, so well done.
There was a crazy stat when we were sitting out at the kitting out that there's only ever been 5,000 Olympians from Great Britain, and I was like, 5,000, that's quite a lot. I was like, when you think of, we live in a country of 60 million people, it's you're like a very, very special human being, and the amount of freebies you get when you go to Olympics is unreal, by the way. So that's a whole of another podcast, but it's good.
Definitely. I want to talk to you about the psychologist then, not, well, in terms of yourself, but also bringing Celtic into it. The news came out, I think, a couple of months ago now that Celtic have brought in a psychologist to help the players. It doesn't seem to have worked too much, judging on recent results, but just tell us a little bit. You went in depth a wee bit there, but tell us exactly what a psychologist can do to you and how much of a difference it makes for an elite sports person.
So for me, being a typical man, I always bottled up my feelings and always bottled up what I was thinking. So I went to Dr. Zara Lipsy's my psychologist, and I went to her in 2013, and I was really sceptical. And I've been put in contact with her by Sport Scotland, and I said, look, I'll go along just to tick a box, but I'll not really do anything. And she just sat down and she said, "Hi, I'm Zara Lipsy. I'm a clinical psychologist. I work at the Institute. Who are you and why are you here?" And half an hour later, I'm in floods of tears because I just literally got everything off that chest. Because I've been bottling up everything for so long. And you know what happens when you bottle something up? It's going to explode and eventually come out. So for me, it was a big change. And I actually started training and throwing a lot better after that in competition because I had this emotional release. I wasn't turning up to training, I wasn't trading it, and I had someone I could speak to who was confidential. And then I worked with a sports psychologist down at British Athletics, Jen Savage. She does a lot of stuff with the relays down there, and about the ability to perform. And it's about, we worked on a lot of routines because we actually did a thing called Insights that a lot of businesses use, and it shows your characteristics and how people can deal with you and what your blind spots are, where you'd be adverse to. So we worked a lot on that and actually pre-comp routines and what you do in the lead up to a comp. Because, like, for me, I'm never in the same place for a competition. So, for instance, I find it really hard when I'm competing at home because I'm sleeping in my own bed and I'm not used to it. I'm used to being in a hotel and everything being in a structure and a routine. So it was about creating those structures and routines around it. And I thought it was interesting when Celtic had said they brought a psychologist in, because they haven't needed a psychologist for the past 9 years. So why, when it's suddenly going better than it ever has, we've got 3 treble, we got a treble, sorry. 9 league titles in a row. Why do we suddenly need a psychologist when it's the best it's ever been? Do you know what I mean? And for me, that was a reflection on poor management. And it sounds really controversial, but like I liken my stance on Celtic to performance sport. If anyone else was in performance sport and wasn't delivering the results, they would be gone. Like, no matter whether they're Neil Lennon, anyone, it's a job. Like, I see people, there's too much sentiment in football for me. You're there to do a job, you're there to deliver, and you're not delivering, get out. Same with the players as well. Like, there's a lot of players in there that are getting picked off reputation, and I just, the whole psychology and the coming out and saying the players are fatigued, and then the players are wanting to go, and then it's the psychology is dictated to me by the manager, and the environment is dictated by the manager. And if you're not creating a good environment for those players, then that's going to have a negative effect on the pitch. And I know I've went off tangent here slightly, but it all links into one: the psychology and the team environment and the atmosphere is led by the man at the top. And if the man at the top's giving out mixed messages, then what are the team going to think?
Yeah. If we talk about Neil Lennon for a wee second, obviously, as you say, the team aren't delivering the results, and Neil Lennon's come in for a lot of criticism, none more so than me in this channel. I've been well documented in saying that I think his time's up at the club, and I'm actually stunned that he hasn't been sacked. However, saying all that, Neil Lennon has struggled with his mental health in the past, with things that have gone on. You've been well documented in saying that, after certain struggles you've had, it's been tough for you. How tough is it for what he's going through at the moment with, everyone has written him off. He's getting slammed left, right and centre, and knowing his his background and his struggles he's had since coming to Scotland. It can't be an easy time for him at the moment.
No, it's not at all. And that's why I almost going to the Commonwealth Games and Olympics almost changed my perception on football and people in sport. I'm a lot less outspoken about it because I got a lot of abuse when I was I can only liken it to myself. I got a lot of abuse when I was at Olympics and Commonwealth Games and things like that. There was articles about me in the Daily Mail, and it was political advisors writing about me, likening me to Tom Watson, probably saying I was a fat git eating 2 pizzas for breakfast. Now, I got those articles and I just brushed it off, but it changed my perception as well. So I'm not one to come out and absolutely slate things personally. For me, it's business. It's the results aren't good enough. I'm not a Saturday guy. The results aren't good enough. So he's got to go. So, but for him, it's hard because literally everyone's wrote him off. I think there was a lot of people backing him for a long time. So I think I was on BBC Radio Scotland after the Rangers game, and I said there and then, I was like, I'd sack him now. I was like, that is an unacceptable performance because we've had Ferencváros, we've had Copenhagen, we've had Cluj, we've had Rangers at Ibrox in December of last year. And we've now had a game at Celtic Park where we failed to register a shot. I was like, take him out the firing line now because it's not fair on the man. And the way I'm looking at it at the minute is he's a bit of a scapegoat at the minute. For me, he's a scapegoat because he's not been trusted to bring in his own backroom team. He was dictated who he got, so Kennedy and Strachan. He's not been allowed to trust to do that. He's almost the face of the operation, but it's not fair to keep him in that firing line. And I personally think, looking at him, I think he's struggling mentally as well. And I'm not speaking this from any, I'm knowing anything. I look at the man and I think you can see he's struggling. You look back to when Neil Lennon was first here, right? And something went wrong, kicking water bottles, slamming dugouts, screaming at players. Look at him, even in Lazio last year. Where is that Neil Lennon now? Where is he? If there was a bit of passion, if there was a bit of fire in the belly, I think people wouldn't be as hard on him. But it's the fact that he looks defeated himself. And it goes back to that environment of, if you're creating that environment for the players, what message is that sending to them? It's like I liken it to the manager as the violinist on the Titanic. Even though the ship's sinking, they still keep playing to keep everyone calm. And that's the role of the manager. You can have a bigger influence mentally that way than actually by what your content or your coaching is. By making someone feel good about themselves, that's the best coaches in my eyes, the best man managers. And you've seen that with Brendan Rodgers, and everyone can slate him and call him he was a rat, but I think most people would take him back now, if I'm honest. Yeah,
definitely. There was a goal we scored at Pittodrie to go, I think, 3-2 up a couple of weeks ago, and I was stunned because Neil Lennon was sitting there silent. He didn't celebrate the goal, he didn't get up at all, and it just absolutely shocked me, that. And I think that's what you were getting at there, the fact that he does look a pale imitation of the guy he was, never mind his first time at the club, but as you say, last year he was a totally different guy, and it can't be easy in him, it's not easy in anyone at the club. How do you think things are going to play out at the club over the next wee while? Obviously there's loads of folk watching this who'll be wondering and really fearful, like we probably both are, about the direction the club's going in.
For me, I think he's going to be there to the cup final, no matter what. They're going to give him the opportunity to finish the quadruple treble, which in any other circumstance would be fine. I wouldn't have a problem with that. But we have won 2 games in 10. Mm-hmm. Now, fair enough, you could argue to a certain degree that those teams, 9 of those games were games that we could have dropped points. If any other season, if those games weren't 9 games in a row and we dropped them over a season, you could kind of go, oh, well, fair enough. Do you know what? Pittodrie, tough place to go. Easter Road, tough place to go. The one that really kind of stands out is Sparta Prague at home, getting absolutely belted 4-1 at home. You're like, that's not good enough. That is not good enough. AC Milan, fair enough. The actual one that came as a complete surprise to me was the hardest game was being away to Lille, and we were 2-0 up. And I'm like, how do you do that? How do you go from not registering a shot on target against Rangers to getting beat 3-1 by AC Milan to then 2 each away from home? But I think the nail in the coffin for a lot of people was Ross County at home. 2-0 against Ross County. That was, for me, that was like the St Mirren moment for Tony Mowbray and the Inverness moment for John Barnes. It was gone way beyond what anyone expected it to be. But I don't see him going anytime soon, which for me is to a detriment to our league campaign. Now, yes, we are out of a cup. Yes, we are out of a Europa League. But the league can still be changed now and now. Like that, this is almost like the last point that can be changed. For me, I would like someone to come in who is not a 6-month fire gap. So when you say Strachan, O'Neill, no, because I don't think they're going to take the job as well. So O'Neill coming in, is he going to step in Len Grave? No, because O'Neill's Lennon's mentor, right? Is Roy Keane the man that you want to come in? And can you imagine Roy Keane going in and shouting at El Yunusi and Edward? They'd sit and cry. They'd sit and cry in the corner. Like that's not going to happen. So then you move on and you go, well, everyone's been linked to Strachan. So Strachan's boys there. So if we sack Strachan's boys, do you think Gordon Strachan's going to come in and say, well, we're going to... Yeah. So everyone's saying... So that's how I'm not even entertaining it. The funniest one for me was the Jack Ross rumour. Like, Jack Ross is apparently coming. Like, I text one of my mates at BBC and I said, "Going to text Jack and see what this is about." And the response I got was the laughing emoji. Like, that's never happening. Like, and maybe 5-6 years down the line, yes. My man, I want Eddie Howe, because you look at what he done with Bournemouth. He was at Bournemouth for what 5-6 years. Built a team that played attacking football. Yes, they shipped a lot of goals at times, but what he done with that team on not a lot of budget. Now, you can say, yes, but he bought Jordan Ibe and he bought Solanke from Liverpool, 2 purchases. But you look at what the solid core unit of that team he had were pretty much either freeze or built from within. Now, the way I see it is he's not going to come in for a 6 month and deliver the 10 in a row, because we've got to accept it as Celtic fans. We are probably not going to win 10 in a row. The way it stands right now, we are 5 points behind Rangers if we win our games in hand. So do we trust Neil Lennon to go to Ibrox and get a result? Well, he can't get a result at Parkhead. So we've got Shane Duffy playing, who has turned into Keith Duffy. Like, yeah, I think he's more like a Duff man at the Simpsons. Do you know what I mean? Like, we're asking him to do things that he's not comfortable doing. He's always played in teams who are defending deep, defending their box, and suddenly we're asking him to play like Pirlo at the back, pinging big balls up to El Yunusi and Eddie. It's not going to work. So we need to find a system that's actually going to work to suit the players and not make the players soft. The massive thing for me is we have no width in our team. So when we're going through this spell, right, we're playing Tom Rogic, we're playing El Yunusi, we're playing Ryan Christie. Ryan Christie's a 10. We're playing him on the right. So what's he going to do? He's going to want to come inside, shoot off the left foot, put it 10 yards over the bar. You've always got that Ryan Christie shot during the game. You've got Tom Rogic, who absolute magician at times, but only plays in that 20-yard space. And you get El Yunusi, who wants to play in that 20 yards. So there's no width at all. So when then suddenly your fullbacks are having to push on to attack their fullbacks, and suddenly there's a big massive space, and we're wondering why we're getting caught out against Sparta Prague and AC Milan. That's why, because we've got no width. So we're missing James Forrest. We should, in my eyes, we should have recruited wingers over the summer. We did not recruit enough wingers, so we let Shved go. Now, I'm not saying Shved was the answer, but you can't tell me he's not better than what we've got at the minute. Lewis Morgan as well, right? Not saying Lewis Morgan's the answer. There's another winger. There's Scott Sinclair. There's 3 wingers. Scott Sinclair. There's 3 wingers we've let go. We've got Mikey Johnson injured. There's no width in the team. We needed a centre defender before we brought Shane Duffy in. We let Jozo Simonovic go, so we're 2 centre-halves down now, and we bring one in, and we're asking him to play completely different to how he's used to playing. There needs to be a change in system for me that actually just goes, simplify it. When things are going wrong, don't overcomplicate it, simplify it. It's for me, it's not that hard, and it's just like, where is David Turnbull?
I know.
Where is David Turnbull? I'm sorry, but I look at it, right, and I said this to a lot of people. Lewis Ferguson and David Turnbull were on a very similar trajectory at the start of the year, right? We've not seen David Turnbull. David Turnbull could be locked up in somebody's garden or shed for all we know. We've not seen him. Like, I know he's had COVID for the past 2 weeks, but you can't tell me that Brown, McGregor are not droppable. Like, Brown's been terrible. And here's an interesting fact. Cal McGregor played his best football at left wing. Think of all the games that we absolutely demolished Rangers. Callum McGregor always played left mid.
He also played much better for Scotland, didn't he? Last month, his best performances in the last couple of months have come in a blue shirt, not in a Celtic shirt, which is just kind of sums it up. It's tough, isn't it? We'll leave the conversation there. We could probably sit and chat for hours, mate, but it's probably not going to do much good because it seems like the board have very much got their ideas at the moment, and that's the way things are going to be. But Chris, it's been a pleasure to have you on, and I wish you all the best. Hopefully next year you're going to be at the Olympics, and hopefully we can speak to you maybe on the channel prior to that if you're up for it.
Yeah, we can maybe even do it live from the Olympic Village. That'd be cool.
Where is it? Tokyo?
Tokyo. So I've got a load of Shunsuke Nakamura stickers that I'm going to put everywhere.
I've got a Japan top signed by him. It was like a cracking blue top from like 2007 or something. I might whip it out for a video at some stage, but it's amazing.
They always had cool tops. Them, and when South Korea held the World Cup, like the tops from that era were just different class.
Yeah. Brilliant, Chris. It's been great to have you on.
Thanks for having me.